Hi, Matt with eTrailer. Today we have a 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. And we're going to be installing and talk about some of the features of the CURT Class 3 hitch. So let's check it out. So with any type of hitch, it's going to be able to let you carry a wide variety of different accessories on the back of here. A lot of things that typically wouldn't fit inside of your Jeep anyways. And what's nice is this is going to be a 2-inch receiver hitch, which is one of the most common hitches out there. So it's just going to work with a lot of different types of gears. And it's going to let you carry anything like bike racks, cargo carriers, or if you have a smaller hitch, you'll be able to tow that behind you. Now with the CURT hitch specifically, there's nothing really that makes it stand out compared to a lot of other options out there. But the biggest thing for me is it's a very affordable hitch, and it's going to be able to do all the same things that the other ones can do too. So let's kind of dive into some of the details about this one and what it's going to work with. So the weight capacity is going to be 5,000 pounds for your towing capacity and 500 for your tongue weight. Really what the difference there is, your towing weight is going to be what you're pulling behind you, what's going to be on the trailer, and then what your tongue weight is, that's going to be the amount of downward force applied to the hitch itself. So that's going to be when you have your tongue or coupler connected to your hitch, that's how much force is being applied up front. Now when it comes to different types of hooks and pins that are going to work with this, it's going to be able to work with either your Class S hooks. You'll see that it works just fine like this. I can also rotate it the other way. Same thing is going to be for your clevis hook. Now this one does feel a little bit tighter, doesn't have as much room or play in it. And it takes me a little bit more to kind of remove it too. So that's something to consider. Now this is a smaller one as well. And this is going to work with your standard 5/8 pin and clip, so you'll be able to push that through and put whatever and secure whatever you have. I will say this doesn't come with a pin and clip, so that is something you'll have to invest separately. And I will say most items that you put back here, like a bike rack or a cargo carrier, will be fine just with that. Because they typically come with a pin and clip. But let's get a few measurements just to see how this is going to sit on the back of your vehicle. So the first measurement I like to get is going to be from the center of the hitch pin hole to the end of the receiver. That's going to be just about 2.5 inches. So that kind of lets you know how close your gear is going to be to the back of your vehicle. But you also got to consider this spare tire. And with that included, that's going to be a little bit under 9 inches. The tire size we have today is going to be 255/60 R20. So just kind of take that into account if you have a larger or smaller tire than this. I'd also recommend trying to find some type of adapter because trying to work around the spare tire is going to be pretty difficult. Something that a lot of people recommend is going to be some type of swing away arm. What's great about a swing away arm is once you swing that away, you actually be able to open up your door completely. A lot of accessories on the back of your vehicle will kind of limit you on what you can or how much you can open this door by. And then finally, we want to talk about our ground clearance. And the first measurement we're going to get is going to be from the ground to the top of the inside of your receiver. And that's going to be 19.5 inches from right here. And another clearance you'll probably want to know too, along with that, is going to be how close your hitch is going to sit from the ground, and that's going to be 17 inches. That's important to know because if you do plan on doing any type of off-roading, you want to know how much clearance you have back here, especially if you do have something maybe like a cargo basket on the back of this too. That's going to weigh this down some. As for the installation, this actually isn't that bad at all. Now sometimes you might have to lower your exhaust, but in our case today, we did it, and in most cases, you probably won't have to either. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to doing this yourself is just safety. If you plan on doing this at home by yourself, what we did was just kind of loaded up on some ramps, chalked our tires, and made sure the car was parked or had our parking brake on, just so it didn't roll around on us. Now, if you just don't have the time or maybe some of the tools, because we do recommend you use a torque wrench so you can properly tighten this down all the way, then I'd recommend just checking out our dealer network. You can actually find that tab on our website, and I'll help you find a dealer next to you so they can install it for you. But if you want to check out that installation now, just stay tuned. We'll walk you through the process. To begin the installation, I just like to make sure I have all my parts laid out. So not only I can take inventory, but also I can make sure there's no damages to any of my bolts, my nuts, washers, and the hitch itself. After we've done that, I also like to get out all my tools. So we're going to need a 3/4 inch socket and wrench. Now you can just use a regular one, or you could use an electric one to make things a little bit faster. And these typically are still pretty easy to get in there. And then on top of that, I also recommend grabbing a torque wrench because you're going to have to torque these down to the spec. Now, if you don't have one of those, you can actually find some of those on our website, or what I'd recommend is just going to one of your local hardware stores and renting one out. When we come to the back side over here, you're going to notice we have 2 bolts. And both of these bolts we're going to have to remove because those are going to get in the way of our existing holes on our hitch. And sometimes to access these, you're going to have to lower down your exhaust. But today, I think we have enough room to actually not remove that, because if I look at one of my bolts here, if I come over here, and these are going to be one of the holes we will be using later on, if I push that through, I do have enough room to do that. You just got to make sure you go above your exhaust and you can kind of squeeze it in. Another thing to think about is if your bolt is having issues squeezing through that hole, you might have to check the backside, and you might need to use a Dremel tool to kind of just widen out that hole a little bit. But right now, if I just kind of wiggle this through a little bit, you can see it's going all the way through. So really, we won't have to make any modifications to our vehicle like that, and we'll just be able to remove these 2 bolts. And you might have to put a little bit of force to get this off. Now, if this won't come off with just your regular wrench, then you can just take that off and trade it out with your torque wrench, since you'll have more leverage with that. And when you're removing these bolts, I would recommend anything that is a little bit larger, like this torque wrench I have today, just because I'll have more leverage to really loosen up that bolt. Tried this earlier, just a smaller wrench, and I just didn't have the leverage to get underneath there and take it off. So this is going to help you out a lot. And with that bolt removed, if I move this, you can see we have a lot more play here. So I'm just going to make sure I remove that secondary bolt, and then we'll be able to slide that hitch up here. Just lining it up, the frame. And this time it's sliding on there a lot easier this time. Everything is feeling pretty good. I have to give it an extra push. And then we can start installing these bolts. Now I'm not going to install this all the way. I just want to put one up there for the time being so it can hold it in place. I'm just going to kind of save my hands a little bit. Might put a secondary one up there too. Just spacing them out so it has even coverage. And there we have it. And now I can start getting the rest of my hardware. Now we're going to grab our washer, remove that bolt, make sure that sits right here, push that all the way through, then on that other side, you're going to find where it's sticking out right there. Once you spot it, you're just going to guide that nut through. Line it up with that bolt, and tighten it into place. I just recommend starting off hand tight, and then we can tighten it all the way down once we have all 4 loosely installed. And if you look up here, I got 2 bolts loosely installed, and the reason why I only have 2 of them here and they're both in the center is because this is what comes with your kit. Again, we did have that pre-existing hardware that went over here on the outsides. Now, if your hardware is damaged for some reason, there are some extra bolts that you can just use instead. But what I'm going to do is use the pre-existing hardware because I know it's going to work. But before I put those bolts back into place, what I'm going to do is grab that bolt I took off earlier with that 10mm socket and wrench and push it back into place. That's going to help it get realigned. I'll just start by hand threading it. But once it's hand threaded the rest of the way on, I can use the socket and wrench to get it back into place. And then same thing on the other side. And then we're going to reinstall this hardware here. Now, if you find that this isn't getting lined up properly or you're having some issues with it, what you can do is just kind of get a tube brush and just kind of push it through there so you can get it back realigned. There we go. And then really the last step is just going to be coming over here to these bolts and torquing them down into place. Now you can find that specific torque setting in your instructions. If you don't own one, like I said earlier, you can rent one too. Once everything's fully tightened down, then you can take it out for a ride and load it up with whatever gear you have. But that was just a look at some of the features and the installation of the CURT hitch on the back of our 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.